Sheni Yud Gimel. It's very interesting. We find that initially that Moshe was sitting and he was adjudicating all the various claims which Jews had against one another. And it says he sat from morning till evening. And Yisro, his father, had just come, and he, as an observer, he sees something, and immediately he has a very critical eye, and he says to Moshe, what you're doing is not the right thing. And he says, ultimately, you're going to wither. It's too much for you. And you have to appoint and create an infrastructure of a judicial system. And they will adjudicate all the less complicated cases. And what's too complicated will bring to you. Moshe consults with Hashem, and Hashem says, yes, that's what you should do. And that was the beginning of the hierarchy within the judicial system. Now the question is, the judges who are qualified to sit on this court, what characteristics, qualities must they have? So he had said, firstly he said, Eicho esel vadi torchachem masachem v'rivchem. How am I able to carry torchachem? So Rashi says, what's torchachem? Mlamich Yisrael, show Yisrael tarchonim. What does that mean? They were literally burdensome. The Jews were burdensome. Let's say the middle of a court case, and he saw that his co-defendant seems to be getting the upper hand with the judge. So immediately he says, let's stop right now. I have evidence, I will bring witnesses. That's what he says. I have other evidence I'm going to bring. Most of the Alechem Dayonim. So then you have to bring other judges. Masachem lamed shoyu apikursim. What's your tarchacha means you're tenuous. When you see your co-defendant is getting the upper hand, you say, oh, by the way, I have other evidence, and he puts the case on hold. Masachem lamed shoyu apikursim. The people they were apikursim. They literally, what is apikursim? They're heretics, but we'll see what it means. Higdim Moshe lotzeis. If Moshe left his home early, Omru Maro ben Amram lotzeis. Why did Moshe leave early in the morning from his home? Shema enushofi b'soch beso. Maybe he doesn't have such harmony in his home, and he had to get out quick in the morning. This is why he left early. Ichel lotzeis. If he was delayed to leave from his home, Omru Ma'rob and Amrod Shlobotzeis. Why was he delayed? So right away, every one of his movements, they evaluate and they have their own ideas why, and they suspect it's not for a good reason. Ma'atem Surim. Why do you think he was delayed? Yoshev Yos Alechem Eitzos Ros. He's plotting all night. He's been plotting all types of strategies, how to do things which are not in our best interests. You hear this? And he has all kinds of calculations how to control us. These are apikursim. Whenever they have any question, right away they have their own commentary on what's it all about. All their suspicions. I mean, how could you even consider suspecting Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu brought the plagues, split the sea, brought the Torah. After they did the Egel, he supplicated Hashem, and there were a second set of tablets. There's a Mishkan, there's everything. These apikursim, but these people, after everything's said and done, and having everything confirmed and witnessed on a miraculous level, right? They still, whenever they don't understand something exactly as they should understand it, they have their own commentary on why. And it's usually always in a suspicious, negative evaluation. These are apikursim. This is masachem. You say, it's unbelievable. After all you've seen, after all I've done for you, you still suspect, I haven't proved myself sufficiently. But you understand? One thing, there's a Yalkut in Parshas Noach, It says the reason why God destroyed the world with the great flood is because he saw the world was corrupted. Everything became corrupted. So the Midrash asks, are the people in our generations as evil as the people of the great flood, of the generation flood? So the Midrash says there are people that are evil. However, there aren't that many. There aren't as many as there. There, the whole generation became corrupted. But today, you have people of that ilk, except the reason why God allows the world to continue is because there aren't that many. Meaning, initially, before Moshe proved himself, there's a reason why not to accept his veracity, unless you have the confirmation he is what he is, it's not. Because he hasn't proven himself. But after all he's proven himself, to what degree does he have to show that he is the dedicated, sincere, authentic representative of Hashem? He leaves early, evidently he has problems at home. He needs a marriage counselor. He leaves late, he's been plotting all night and strategize how to harm us, how to hoodwink us. That's Masachem. Rivchem, Mlami Choy Rognim. There were people who always saw everything in the negative. So what did he say? We have to appoint people who are chachamim. What is chachamim? Wise. Unevonim. People who are insightful and able to extrapolate and understand things very well. These are the qualifications. V'yidun l'shetechem. And they're known to the people. The people know them, meaning there's a level of relationship. V'asimim b'roshechem. And I will appoint them to be your overseers. They will be the judges. So let's see, what are anoshim? V'chisal daitach noshim? I mean, we know that only a man qualifies to be a judge. A woman cannot be a judge. So what does it mean? Anoshim? Anshi tzadikim. Anoshim means people of distinction. Tzadikim. Like we find by the Meraglim. When they left, they were anoshim. They were tzadikim. Chachomim. This is it. Kesufim. Tzadikim kesufim. People who have conscience. The judges have to have conscience. They have to have shame. Understand what this is? To be a chacham, you have to have shame. If you have no shame, you're not a chacham. What does shame have to do with being a chacham? Chacham means you possess wisdom. You have an evaluation, make some level of evaluation. The Gemara tells of a story that I think was Rav. If a judge has any conflict of interest, he has to disqualify himself. He has to be totally impartial. So if there was a certain person who asked Rav to be the dayan, the judge, to adjudicate his case, and Rav had like a feather on his frock, and the person just took the feather off. That was his level of accommodation, to accommodate him. Not necessarily intentionally. Rav immediately disqualified himself. That because this person did him a favor, it's nothing monumental, nothing which is it's almost effortless. But since it touched Rav in a way that this man had done something for him, he disqualified himself. He felt his impartiality was already somehow compromised. He cannot be fully objective to give this man a fair decision. You know what that means? You know what level of conscience he has? He's worried that maybe because this man did something which was normally not even valued. I mean, people do people favors, and it's like, they have short memories. It's like it never happened. And that's why people are so unappreciative. What did you do? What did you do for me lately? People of conscience, everything they do, it actually touches them. And if it touches them, and you're asked to be in a certain position, to be objective, and you have to be impartial, because they have conscience, they're concerned that maybe whatever happened affected my impartiality. That's chachomim. They have conscience. It's very interesting. We find that what does fear of heaven refer to? Yiras shamayim, fear of heaven. It should say Yiras Hashem. What's Yiras shamayim? Fear of heaven. So Rechaim Volozhin explains that based on how we behave, one of the 13 tenets of Jewish belief is schar v'onish. There's reward and punishment. Not only is there reward and punishment in the world to come, there's reward and punishment in this world. Based on the way we behave, as the Torah tells us, if we follow the statutes, we're dedicated, we do what we're supposed to do, things go in one direction, in the most positive direction, in the most overwhelming positive direction. But if not, then chas v'sholem, everything could actually become disastrous, catastrophic. So meaning our behaviors depend on what? So what really dictates our behavior? Understanding that every nuance of behavior can actually affect the world. How God will allow the energy flow should go. Does it flow positively or does he withdraw? If he withdraws, it's disastrous. If we're with him and we're dedicated to him, then it flows, then he's with us. So if a person has in mind understanding that the ramifications of his behavior are actually affect what goes on in heaven, in Shamayim, knowing there's a God is not enough, but knowing that Hashem responds and reacts to the positive and the negative, that itself touches a person that he toes the line properly. That's what it's called, Yira Shamayim. Yiras Hashem, everybody says, God bless America. God bless, but who's God? God is the one that who sees every nuance of behavior, and based on that, that's the way he determines how involved he is, on a world level, on a personal level. The Gemara says in Kedushin, and the Rambam rules this in Hilchos Tshuva, that a person, before he does anything, he should see himself exactly in the balance. Exactly in the balance. And if he does something positive, he's swayed to the positive side on the scale, and his classification is tzaddik. And if he does anything negative, because he's exactly in balance, he's swayed to the negative, and he's Russia. And it's the individual, it's the community, it's the world. Let's say the world is exactly in the center, in the balance, and you do one sin, what happens? You topple the world. The world is going to be destroyed. So if a person sees and understands, and he puts it in this lens, that even the slightest infraction could topple and destroy the world, then the person actually understands the significance and the ramification even of the slightest mitzvah or the slightest infraction. So, but that's Yiras Shamayim. It's not Yiras Hashem. Because you understand what God does, how he relates and responds to our positive and negative behavior, that impacts on us. What is that? That's conscience. There's a conscience. Some people say, I'll do my thing, but look at the destruction, look at the harm and the pain you're causing other people. You know something? It's irrelevant to me. It doesn't even resonate with the person. He's not concerned. He doesn't even see it. Again, because the person has no conscience. So the greater the conscience, the wise you become. Because you can have a genius intellect, but if you have no conscience, you're more vicious than an animal. You have a conscience, then you have control over your behavior. So conscience is the determining factor to what degree you exercise your free choice. If you have no conscience, literally you go with the flow. Whatever drives you, that's where you go. You have conscience. I remember I was once riding in a car. Somebody was eating, this story goes back many years ago, was eating an orange. You have to be brought up a certain way. And the window's open, driving in the country, and this person sitting in the back seat, and he takes the orange peels and just throws them out the window as the car's going along. And he's eating the various parts of the orange. I couldn't believe this person's behavior. I mean, what about littering? Not because there's a fine litter. I'm just, as a proper human being, how do you just throw your trash on the road as they're going out? The answer is, it's an indication the way he was brought up. You live for yourself and only you think about that, and whatever's convenient, that's what you do. You don't think about the ramifications or the way it affects other people. I remember there was an article written on there's a segment of the IDF, probably Mark, when he took his kids, he took them to the army base. That was one of the things that I was part of the orientation. When you take the kids to Israel, you got to take them to an army base and show them, the tanks and how to shoot, the shooting range, and the gear. And they come back when they get the tefillin, they have like a bullet case. That's what the tefillin are kept in. I'm saying just jokingly, but some people do. So there's a group called Duvdevanim. What are Duvdevanim? It's and I know the person there's a Ir David in Israel, the one who's the head of that project, he was one of the leaders of that, founders of that group. Today's man is upper 60s. And they go among the Arabs, they look like Arabs, they speak Arabic, and they have all the body movements, and you can't tell. And they go in, and on the cover of the night, they go and they do what they have, the operation, they go in, go out, and they have to destroy or kill the terrorists or whatever they do. So some of these people were training, so they go and they walk through the Arab neighbors, they're dressed like Arabs, and he was eating an ice cream. This person undercover, he was an Arab, he was supposed to look like an Arab. And he goes and he takes off the cover of the ice cream, and he goes over to a trash can, puts it in the trash can. He gave away his cover. Why? Because the Arabs in their communities, when they eat something, the trash goes straight on the street. As they walk to eat, and everything goes on the street. This whole concept of putting it in the trash bin and being concerned for cleanliness, it doesn't exist in their communities. So therefore, immediately he was like terrified. Here he was perfect, and all of a sudden he's giving away his cover by that. You understand? There's no conscience. You do what you have to do, and that's what it is, and that doesn't mean anything. The whole concept of Hakor Satov, the Ochovos Levavos writes, what's Hakor Satov? To be beholden. Hashem does so much for us. Every aspect of our being, it functions because he wills it so. So how do you ever defy his word? Just based on the principle of being appreciative, being the beholdenness. But you have to have conscience for that. If you have no conscience, it's all meaningless. Chachomim is ksufim. You have shame. That is the characteristic. Moshe, Avraham Avinu, how did he recognize God? What drove him to recognize God? Because he saw a world that was created, and he saw himself what the human being is, and he says, "Who is the master of this citadel? He's given me so much. I'm such a beneficiary. I have to reciprocate. I have to dedicate my life to him. Unless I knew who he is, I'm not doing that." And that's what drove him to come upon Hashem. And Hashem said, and he interacted with all the greatest minds of the generation, and he wasn't satisfied with their answers. I'm not giving my life unless I know definitely that this is the master, to who I will reciprocate and give my life for. Till finally Hashem said, Ani Balabira. I am the master, and once he had that confirmation, then Avraham Avinu became the Ivri. He took on the world single-handedly to do what he had to do.